Hello fellow collectors, and welcome to Galick Gun Toys. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Have another collector on the show. It's my good friend Neil. Neil, say hello.
Hey young guys.
Okay, now Neil is another collector as well. Him and I have shared and bonded over that passion for probably a good 10 years or more. So it was really good to have him on the channel today, and yeah, let's just jump into it. So, Neil, what do you collect today?
As of right now, I'm collecting heavily into Assassin's Creed.
Yep, just statues and action figures?
Statues, figures, linographs, games, anything to do with it. I'm now sort of, with my passion that was previously Batman.
Yep.
Dragon Ball Z, as you would know,
yep.
So on and so forth. Sort of selling up all the Batman items, making some money on it, dumping it into Assassin's Creed. The only reason being is, like one figure, one statue at a time could be $1,500, and the reason that puts the price on these is because they're generally a limited edition number. There might be one of 1,000 in the world released, and I'm trying to get my hands on that, so it pushes a premium up the minute there's a number of authenticity on it. So that's sort of where I'm at the moment. Is I've got all the base of Assassin's Creed that I require, but now I'm sort of, as much as the wife's probably going to kill me, I'm spending thousands on the high-end ones now.
Going for the grails.
Oh, of course, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I can understand that. So is it the exclusivity of those figures that's drawing you into those higher-end items?
Yeah, I suppose I'm more a fan of the franchise in general. I've
Just
played every
the
game
games?
religiously, yeah, 100%. So the first game hooked me in. By the second game, collectibles started coming out, and really started
exclusive
hitting.
statues with the games.
Absolutely, yeah. So Ubisoft sort of clicked on, the company that created Assassin's Creed really clicked on to the market, and I still don't think by the second game they sort of knew what they had, but they slowly started releasing some collectibles. And by the third game, they knew they had a franchise on their hands, and that was it. So I suppose it was initially the franchise drew me in.
Yep.
And ever since that day, I've just been collecting and spending money on these items.
Fantastic. Well, that's good to know, and that was the first thing I wanted to start off with, so everyone could get to know you a little better and what you're collecting. Okay, so your previous collecting experiences. So I will just interject here for a moment, because Neil used to pop around when I lived at my old house, probably about 9 or 10 years ago. Every time he'd pop around with his girlfriend, his now wife, he would bring around a bag of goodies. And these bags would usually range from Dragon Ball to Marvel, 90s figures, Batman, Batmobiles. So always had a lot of cool goodies from Neil in a lot of my collections. So that's something I do know. You collected like classic Batman, you had classic Marvel.
I was across everything pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, what is your previous collecting experiences with collecting in general? Not so much, because I know you are probably a lot like me in the regard that you had a lot of toys growing up.
Yeah. And
you appreciated those franchises, but you had an appreciation for action figures, and maybe didn't want to let those go. That's why you never sold them off when you were, coming of age.
And that's correct. I did have a massive appreciation for action figures pretty much all through my life. If I sort of went back in time from last to first, which is now Assassin's Creed, previous to that was Batman.
Yep.
So everything and anything Batman, if it was in existence, I was buying it. If it had a number on it, I was buying it. I'd keep it in a box. I suppose that's the difference between collectors. I never ever displayed my items, and I regret that, because I have cupboards full of boxes. I suppose it's because I'm seeing the resale value at a later stage. But it's depressing as well, because I'd love to put them on display and say this is what I have. In saying that, if I put them on display, the wife will understand what I have, and she'll kill me.
She'll kill you. Yes.
So yeah, it was Batman. So anything Batman I'd collect, and then pre-Batman, Dragon Ball Z. Mostly Western figures. I never tapped into the Japanese market.
Well, I never tapped into the Japanese market until maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like when, in about 2015, just before I did my first trip to Japan with John, that's when I started to become very acutely aware of just how much was being produced in Japan, and I was very ignorant to the fact that all this amazing stuff by, you know, Ichiban Kuji and Banpresto, all this fantastic stuff, you go over to Japan and it's in mass quantities, and they've never stopped releasing it. It's been coming out every month, every year for decades.
Well, I find the irony in Dragon Ball, and this is sort of where I was at as well when it came to the Dragon Ball Z collection, was sort of mid-collectible with the Western toys. I had, you know, sort of like your Frieza Saga, your Boo Saga, Cell Saga, and so on toys that I was collecting as they were getting released in Australia. What threw me off, and I was like, I'm going to sort of maybe can this here, was I didn't realise that Dragon Ball Z had aired and finished in Japan in like 1989 or something, like a year after I was born. It had been done. Whereas in, you know, Western society, we were getting in like 1999 into the 2000s, and it was the biggest thing. So sort of when I looked into other areas that were selling different figures, there was just too many. And as you can see, you've tapped that and you've done it. Well done. I'm glad that someone has. But at that time, you know, I was young and I was like, no, I can't do it.
But it's saying that, like, I have most of my stuff is newer. Like, I do have a few older pieces that are really standouts, but majority of my stuff is newer. Though when we are in Japan later, hoping the end of this year, maybe early next year, we do plan on actually hunting down a lot of older stuff, just for the channel, just so you guys can get a look at what Japan was producing, you know, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, just so we have a comparison with what we were getting in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Pre-Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z figures, would have been Marvel. I believe I donated to the cause a lot of Marvel.
Yeah, like you and I I feel have a very shared love of, like, X-Men,
of course,
like the 90s X-Men animated series.
Yes.
Like, that would have been something you and I both grew up on.
Yes.
Like, I'm in the middle of rewatching this from start to finish now, and, you know, it's such an amazing series.
Yes.
You know, like, I've got, you know, Yellow Suit Wolverine will forever be just something special when I see him in that classic costume.
Yes.
There's just something it does to me.
See, I liked, I sort of, with Marvel, I like the unorthodox sort of characters like Red Hulk, She-Hulk, Mysterio, all those sort of like unorthodox characters that, you know, sort of pull up and people are like, who's this? I don't think people understand the Marvel universe has, you know, over 600 characters.
Yeah.
You know, maybe let's just say 500 of them had maybe 20 seconds time in a comic or something like that.
Did you ever read Exiles?
I've read a lot, maybe.
So Exiles it's sort of an X-Men comic, and it starts out, there's this character called the Time Broker.
Okay.
And he pulls X-Men characters from all these alternate universes.
Yes.
That by far is one of my all-time favorite comic series. Like, I've tracked down a lot of the collected editions of that, like hardcovers of that, because there's something special about that series. And, like, if you're an X-Men fan, I highly recommend searching Marvel's Exiles. I think it ran from, like, 2001, early 2000s to around 2007, and it was just a really fantastic series. You know, hopping around multiple alternate dimensions just constantly. Like, that was the series. And that was so cool because we got to see so many different versions of characters we know, but so many different twists on them. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And if I could actually find a figure I'd buy it, I for the life of me can't remember the name of the character, but it was one of the first Marvel characters ever to make a movie, and it was the Duck, that Duck character.
Howard the Duck.
That's it. If I could find a Howard the Duck, I'd buy it, because, you know, that is pretty much the original item that, although the movie flopped, and Marvel flopped at the stage because of that movie, if I could find that, to me that was a franchise bringer, because it pretty much started
Yeah.
You know, where Marvel sort of had airtime to movies.
Yeah, so you want to find that one
Oh, yeah.
for yourself, yeah. No, that would be something cool.
Yeah.
And I get that. I really do. Now let's talk about your love of Dragon Ball. Because this is Galick Gun Toys. We're in the Galick Gun Toys collection room. So your love of Dragon Ball, where does it all stem from?
Look, I think I was introduced into ironically, I was introduced to a game. Must have been a Sega Mega Drive game. That's just going way back. They had a Dragon Ball
Super Booten.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was introduced to that when I was, must have been 8 years old or 9 years old or something like that. And loved the characters. And ironically, when the TV series hit, this was sort of the time frame when, you know, Pokemon was massive.
Yep.
And, you know, that was the thing, was, you know, Pokemon trading card game was it, you know. And then Dragon Ball Z hit Western culture. And I think it sort of went missed through Saiyan Saga. No one really watched Saiyan Saga. I watched it.
Yeah, I watched it. I was part of the, you know, because when you probably know, when we were younger, when these new shows would air, they would air on like a show like Cheese TV. And Cheese TV, for those of you that don't live in Australia, was basically, it would be a morning block of shows from, say, 6:30 until about 8:30.
Yeah, 8:30.
8:30. So you'd have the before school time slot pretty much, and it would be just a little show. You'd have two guys putting on. It changed from Cheese TV to Toasted TV, and we had a few different iterations of these morning shows. But the most memorable for us was probably Jay and Ryan from Cheese TV. You know, that
was before they had an on-air fight and that got cancelled.
Yeah, and then they're now doing circuits with Supernova and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
It would basically, we would have all sorts of different shows on. We'd have, say, Pokemon, maybe Digimon, and it'd usually be about 3 shows with some other stuff from the morning show in between.
Yeah, so I think your main sort of cartoons that aired on that, it started out with your standard Western style cartoons, Ninja Turtles and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it'd always rotate. You'd always have new cartoons coming in.
Of course.
But when a new cartoon usually came out, or a new show came out, I'll use as a example was Spider-Man the Animated Series. I think that was a mainstay on that series for a long time in the mornings. And then, you know, you would have new things they would introduce new things like Beast Wars or something. Or I do remember Beast Wars started out originally as an aired in the afternoons, and then it went to Toasted TV for the last season or 2.
I think a lot of your animated cartoons got pushed out by anime cartoons in the latter stage.
Yeah, Digimon,
Pokemon, Beyblade, Sailor Moon.
Beyblade. See, I forgot about Beyblade.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got Sailor Moon on Cheese TV.
Might have been.
Though I do remember.
Yeah.
But I remember when you and I probably, because you're 88, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so same year. So, I do remember in the early 90s, I would have been when I would have been 5 or 6, I remember watching Sailor Moon on, in the mornings.
Yes, yeah.
So that was obviously on early morning TV, but sort of towards, like you said, the late 90s, that's when the anime really took over.
Oh, it absolutely smashed the market.
Yeah, you would have every morning, it would be Pokemon, Beyblade, and Dragon Ball Z, or a variation of other shows like Digimon. They would rotate them out when they'd run out of episodes.
Yeah. But
generally, we were pretty lucky in that regard.
I remember a big one was One Piece as well. That sort of came in at the latter stage of it.
Yeah, but that was a really bad dub.
Yes, it was.
That's been completely redubbed.
It was super touch and go, yeah.
I would have watched that. Everyone always told me, you'll love One Piece, you love Dragon Ball, you'll love One Piece. And for many years, all I could ever think of was that horrible English dub opening, where they're talking about Luffy, and it's this stupid song. It's oh, he ate a piece of gum fruit, or something, and it's so terrible. And I remember seeing that opening and listening to that song and being 12-year-old Jared was nah. I'm not watching this.
You know, I'll counter-argue that. At the end of the day, I still remember that song, and it's still in my head. I think that was that that opening song, although as terrible as it was,
It's
let's
terrible.
be honest, it was the only thing that got me to watch it. Now I think One Piece is up to like 800 episodes now or
I
something
think they're
ridiculous.
over 1,000
Yeah,
now.
they're up to something ridiculous. I can't follow, but yeah, I think I must have watched the first season, and then that was sort of it. And
Well, see, since then, I do remember in 2015, early 2015, maybe late 2014, I started getting into. Someone told me, like, you've got to watch One Piece, like, you'll enjoy it. And I told them my concerns about, the original dub, and they're like, that's all been redubbed. Funimation completely redubbed it from the beginning. So I went and I watched it from the beginning of this, from where they've redone it, where they've redubbed it. Started from the beginning, and I've gotten up to, I think I'm nearly 300 episodes in.
Yeah.
And it's a solid series. I do enjoy it. I find something that makes me a lot more comfortable with the English version of it is there's a lot of the voice cast from Dragon Ball Z.
yeah,
So you do notice a lot of voices. You can be, if you're cooking dinner, for example, and you're watching One Piece, and you're not looking at the screen, sometimes you'll forget that you're not watching
yes,
Dragon Ball Z or something, because those voices are just so in the back of your mind because you've heard them so much over the years in the English dub of Dragon
and
Ball.
the irony is as well is I'll take an anime in traditional Japanese with subtitles any day, but some days I just want to switch off. And,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And watch the English dub.
Like, for me, I've watched Dragon Ball Super in its entirety multiple times while it was airing. I'd watch an episode 10 times throughout the week while I'd be waiting for the next episode to air. And I enjoyed that quite a lot. But the reality is, when the English dubs come out, I will buy them, I will sit there and enjoy them. But I find now I get something different from it. Like, I enjoy it on a much more relaxed level, the English dub. But when I watch the Japanese dub, I feel it affects me in a different way. Like, for example, when Trunks cut Zamasu in half with his sword of hope or spirit sword or whatever, like, that actually moved me to tears. Like, I was so overwhelmed by, like, the conclusion of that arc and how they ended it, and it hit me so hard when I watched that in Japanese. I do remember actually shedding a tear or two and being like, oh my god, like, because I was so happy at seeing what they'd done and just seeing this arc through to conclusion. And I thought this will be interesting when I watch it in English, what it does to me, because that is a very powerful scene in Japanese to me personally. That particular scene in English doesn't, like, it's still a very powerful scene and it's great, but it just doesn't
have the same effect.
It just doesn't have the same effect. And even when we get later into the Tournament of Power, I'm sure there's going to be stuff from the final few episodes that I'm still going to enjoy more in the Japanese.
Oh, of course.
Just because there's something, and also it's the first time you viewed it.
Yes.
That does have a very, it's like,
I'd agree.
For us trying to watch original Dragon Ball Z in Japanese would be difficult because we've seen that so many times in English.
Exactly.
It's very hard to make your brain switch off.
Yeah. See, I got friends that I work with, friends that I'm in contact with, and they just, everyone has their own taste in how they view, something like Dragon Ball Z in all of its entirety and excellence. And a lot of them just can't watch the Japanese anime, they don't like it. The way I see it is it's almost like reading a book. You get captivated into that book and you visualize that you're there.
Yeah.
I feel the same with the anime because you're trying to read the subs whilst focus on the actual anime itself, and you feel like you're actually getting drawn into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where there's more of an emotional attachment to the original Japanese anime versus the English dub.
And I feel what people have to kind of let go of too is also the fact that it does take time to get used to watching something in an English dub, like in a Japanese dub, in its original format.
Yeah.
Like, for me, when I first started watching Dragon Ball Super, I found it very difficult because I wasn't used to watching. I'd watch Dragon Ball sometimes in Japanese, but majority of the time Like I'd never watched Dragon Ball Z at that point in Japanese. So it was very hard to sort of get used to watching Super at first.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But then, I think by episode 10, I'd sort of... I took a break. We got to episode 10 during the Japanese airing, and I took a break for a few weeks, and I think they were at about episode 21, maybe 25, by the time I came back.
You binged watched them through?
I watched from episode 14, so I skipped 4 episodes, and I started pretty much after Battle of Gods, because I was like, alright, I want to see what happens after Battle of Gods.
That's a circle.
You know, I'm happy to skip the rest of this until later. I'll go back and rewatch it at a later date, which I did. But I started at episode 14 or 15, like Vegeta becomes a pupil.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the episode is, where he goes to train with Whis. And I started watching there, and I found myself being so hooked on the story and wanting to know what happened, that block that I had in my head that was stopping me from enjoying it so much in Japanese was gone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care anymore. I was so invested in what I was seeing with Vegeta and all this new story, and even when we got to the new Frieza arc, and we're starting to see, okay, now Togama is alive. He hasn't been killed by Frieza.
Yes.
He's now got an iron body. He's now hard as nails.
Yes.
Ginyu now takes his... all of that completely just invested me so much to see all this new stuff.
Yes.
I didn't care anymore.
I think it was also, you probably weren't invested in sort of like the Battle of the Gods arc, because I'm sure, like myself, you would have gone to the cinemas to have already seen the English adaptation.
I actually could not get tickets for it.
Oh, wow.
Because this is at a point in Australia, because what was that, 2012? 2013?
No, it would have been a lot later than that, I'm assuming.
I'm pretty sure it was 2013. Yeah, it was 2013. Battle of Gods must have come out, because Resurrection F came out in 2015.
Okay, there you go.
I watched...
time gets away from you, mate.
But Resurrection F I watched in Japan, because it was still airing when I was in Japan in 2015. Yes. And then I watched it a few months later here in Australia.
Yep.
Right? But Battle of Gods came out, and I think it was like a good year until the English dub was done, and they were releasing it in cinemas. But because we were still in a strange spot at that time in Australia, it was very hard to find a cinema that was showing it, and the only cinema anywhere nearby that was screening it was one in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And like the tickets were a pain in the ass to get. It was just... it was just painful.
That was sort of the one thing I was like, I hate going to the cinemas. I always download stuff. Don't pirate, it's bad.
Very bad.
Yes, very bad.
Support your media.
Yeah, that's
Buy your hard media.
Buy your hard media. So anyway, my friend who downloads movies and gives them to me. Sure. I tend to get those sort of movies, but this one here was sort of different. I needed to be there, I needed to see it, and that was that. And I did the same thing with Revival of Frieza, but the wife came with me this time, because she actually actively watches Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball with me.
That's great. Yeah.
And she thoroughly enjoyed it as well. And I said, well, when the saga comes out, they're obviously comes out, they're going to obviously touch on these items, and it did. It just explained a lot more. You could tell that Akira Toriyama was sort of putting this out to see, do I still have a fan base in Western culture? Yeah. I don't know.
And he realised he did, and that's why we've got Dragon Ball Super now. And I still remember watching Resurrection F, and just being blown away by the visuals and just how different it looked. They'd change Goku's outfit and Vegeta's. That to me was like, it doesn't seem like a lot now. We've got Dragon Ball Super, but you got to remember, this is just before Dragon Ball Super was announced. Maybe just after it was announced. And it was something special, when we got Battle of Gods, it was like, this could be the start of something new. But I think a lot of people, myself included, were very skeptical. I wasn't getting my hopes up. I was like, if they release a movie every few years, that's great. Yeah. I'm happy with that. And then when Resurrection F got announced, and I actually got a chance to see it, I was blown away. such an amazing movie. I do not know how many times I've watched Resurrection F.
Yeah.
I know my girlfriend Jess rolls her eyes every time. Like every time that Blu-ray gets put into the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
She's like, because in the years since it's come out, I have watched that movie to death.
Yeah.
You know, that is one of my all-time favourite movies. Like, I love the new Broly movie. It's awesome. Watched it just the other night. But still, Resurrection F, there's something special about that movie.
I think that it's more that sort of Frieza plays a part in sort of everyone's lives. You know, everyone's got that Frieza. Everyone knows that Frieza in their life, kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know
they
what
do.
I mean? And it's good because, and I like sort of the angle they're slowly taking with it, much as that the Vegeta was the sort of the villain, then became the anti-hero, and then sort of became good. It feels that they were sort of going that way as well. You know, like Goku and Frieza obviously had a mutual respect for each other, as much as they didn't like each other.
Yeah.
But it sort of went from Frieza being the villain to, by the end of Super, sort of the anti-hero. Now, I'll grant it, I'd say Broly brought back the villain in him.
Yeah.
But I would say that outside of Super and Resurrection of F, Broly's non-canon. Whereas it was interesting to see Akira Toriyama sort of make, you know, Battle of the Gods.
I love that they brought in Broly to the proper canon. You know, now we have, you know, this Broly that is part of the Dragon Ball Super, the main continuity.
Yeah.
You know, like the original Broly is a cool idea, a cool concept.
Yeah.
But there's no character there. There's no fleshed outness to that character. They've fleshed him out a little bit, and I just hope in the future we see a lot more of that moving forward. You know, if we get the integration of Broly into Dragon Ball Super, into the mainline series, that's going to be great.
Yes.
What I'd love to see them do is do a time skip to the end of Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
So they're able to tell the end of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And then start fresh.
Yes.
So maybe Goku can be away training with Oob.
Yep.
Okay, and then we can focus more on something else. Maybe Broly can come to Earth with Chile and Limo.
Yep.
You know, maybe they can hang out at Capsule Corp. Maybe, you know, like there's limitless potential for if they just move forward after that time gap.
Yeah, I think you sort of got to look at it. I think that they tried, and don't get me wrong, Goku was still the main character, but they tried that arc with GT and it was a failure.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a complete failure. So they'd have to do it very, very smart on how they sort of pursue that by introducing a different character as sort of like your main character.
I think what they need to do is take the formula from Super.
Yes.
Where it's very casual, where, you know, you have an episode where Gohan's just going about his business.
Yep.
You know, he's going to a movie set with Videl and seeing Mr. Satan, and then he's deciding to do some stuntman work or something. You know, these little slice of life episodes will help keep it grounded, I feel. So if you can have Goku off training Oob, I think that would be a really good way that the series would be more grounded. But that's just one man's speculation and one man's opinions on the subject.
Would, and I don't know if anyone else is with me. The way I'd see them doing this, I agree that'd be clever. Is I think if they wanted to pursue the arc and to bring, say, you know, maybe Goten and Trunks up and so on and so forth, and maybe bring Broly in, would be to play a part that out of Goku and Vegeta, say Vegeta becomes a god of destruction. Somehow comes. You know, maybe another universe is in existence that doesn't have a god.
Well, see, that's why we need to just get past. We just need to get past that time skip, because at the moment nothing really significant can really happen.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, with the Tournament of Power, we knew everyone was going to survive because Dragon Ball Z has an ending, and it's set before Super. You know, before the ending of the Tournament of Power.
Yeah.
It's set after
after
the Tournament of Power. So even though there is a bit of suspense, there is no, oh no, everyone's going to die, because we knew at the end of the day,
Yes.
Universe 7 was making it out of there somehow.
Correct, yeah. I mean, you're obviously referring to like the last, one episode of Dragon Ball Z, sort of.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think it's the last, like, 5 episodes, maybe.
Well, that was, correct, that'd be right, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, see, I'd see what I'd like to see is the angle to go would be Vegeta becomes a god of destruction, Goku masters complete Ultra Instinct and becomes the angel of the universe. And then those two guys go off to do their own thing, and that sort of keeps them out of it. Now that opens it up for something later where it's, Dragon Ball gods or something like that. But then you can arc into Goten and Trunks, becoming of age, and as you put...
I would like to see that. Like, I really would. Like, maybe Vegeta grabs them, takes them off to another planet, and is like, you boys have gotten soft. Very similar to like he does in GT, where he's dragging both of them onto the spaceship, and he's like, you've both gotten too soft, you're going in outer space, it'll be good. Maybe he'll do something like that, and he'll be like, you boys have gotten too soft, you come with me, and I'm going to go train you.
Yeah, nice.
That would be something I'd like to see. And then we could pop back to, Goku training with Oob, and then maybe every now and again he drops over to planet Vampa and takes Oob with him for some training with Broly. Like, who knows? It has limitless potential.
I agree, but whatever they do, they have to bring in and give Mr. Satan a pivotal part again. Now, he's the guy that everyone loves and the guy that you just want to punch in the face.
He's the guy you love to hate.
Yeah, I loved him during the Cell Saga.
I hated him in the Cell Saga. I hated him throughout so much of the series. But now that I'm an adult, I do find Mr. Satan funny.
Oh, so do I. And I mean, that was the thing, was like, whenever he comes on, you just roll your eyes and go, this guy again.
Yeah, like,
but that's what I like.
I enjoy him in Super. Like, by the time Super rolled around, I was old enough and mature enough to be able to appreciate Mr. Satan for the character that he is.
Yeah.
And he's the slapstick, he's the light-hearted humour of the show.
But I think, I suppose Super sort of brought him down a bit again, because like he was a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, but I enjoy that there's just no, like, he doesn't even, like, lie to himself anymore. Yeah. He's just like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Oh man, is Goku around?
Yeah.
Or Vegeta, I'd settle for Trunks and Goten. Like, he's like, everyone's more powerful than me, someone come and help me.
Yeah.
But
I suppose by timeline as well, he's technically, he'd be in his 60s now or something like that by timeline.
Yeah,
so I guess 60s. He's sort of, he's just like, nah, I'm not done. I'm done fighting, I'm done lying, I'm done everything. I know who's more powerful, so on and so forth. These guys defeated Cell, these guys defeated Boo, technically, by definition, before he came back, so on and so forth.
The next topic I wanted to get into, the time you gifted me a massive collection of Dragon Ball figures for my birthday.
Yeah.
I will tell this story from my perspective, because I don't think I've ever heard it from yours, but I remember walking into my room on my birthday. I think while I was out doing something, you'd come over while I was out, and you'd left, and I came in and I opened my bedroom door, and my massive queen-size bed was just covered in, like, vintage, like the Jakks Pacific and Irwin. There's, like, all the Jakks Pacific and Irwin figures, like, probably a good 30 figures or more, all boxed, all laid out on my bed in, like, just covered, just absolutely covered. And I remember opening my bedroom door on my birthday, just going, wow, like, that was one of, that still to this day is probably the most impressive present I've ever received from anyone. Wow. Like, because no one at that point in my life, I think this is probably, it would have been my 21st, probably.
That sounds about right.
So that'd be about 10 years ago now. And, we were still at a strange point in the world. Pop culture hadn't sort of taken over.
Yeah.
And it was still, a little bit frowned upon for grown men to still be collecting toys and action figures. Like, I didn't give a crap, and I never have, and I probably never will. But, that meant so much to me, because so few of my friends actually supported that, or actually, tried to nurture that love that I had. and you know it's grown into this now. But you know that was something that probably helped me get to where I am today with my collecting, because like I still remember just being so blown away because there were so many figures that I'd wanted and I'd never seen in the shops, because there were bastards like you going and buying them all up and packing them away in boxes.
Pretty much. Oh, look, I remember it as well, and I was caught in a situation where it was like, look, and this is sort of when I came to the conclusion of I just can't keep up with the way this is going, and it's good to have sort of like the Jack specific toys and the Owen toys and stuff like that, but when I found out the market consisted of whatever was going on in Japan, and there was 20,000 other figures to get, I just went, no way, this is going to take me forever. So I thought, look, I'll sell these ones on, they're still in their boxes, I could get top dollar for them and stuff like that. And then it clicked, and I think Andre was at my house, and he goes, oh, why don't you sell them to Jared? I was like, yeah, no, why don't I just give them to Jared? Because you have an appreciation for these items, and
I still have those. Every one of those figures are still sitting in my collection at Mum's. Like I even did. I don't know if you saw it on the channel. I did like my Dragon Ball storage collection.
Yes,
and I went through like everyone in the back, like because a good chunk of those figures, like I got from you.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was it, and it was sort of like, look, I could sell them and make a mint myself, and I wasn't pursuing anything else collectible at the time. There's nothing that really sort of interests me. Batman was always there and so on and so forth, but there was nothing I really needed or nothing I wanted. And I was like, well, look, whether you open the boxes or not, I don't care. Me personally, I'm a box collector. You're a display collector.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, you'll have a very big appreciation for this, and at least I know it's going to someone who's going to treat them right. And I mean, like, that sounds really, really sad, but like these, sure, I guess they could be deemed as kids' toys, expensive kids' toys, but I'd rather them go to someone who can keep them for years and just have the benefit of them, put them on display, and let people see them, versus someone that's like, here you go, son, and the toy gets destroyed in a week.
Yeah. Like I'd have no problem if I had kids giving them toys to play with. Just not mine.
Yeah.
Like I'd give them good quality toys to play with. But I see one thing that's a real weakness for me now is I see all this Imaginext Batman stuff.
Yes.
I see that stuff, and I think about buying all of it and just putting it aside for when I have kids.
Yep.
And just being able to sit down and play, because those are some awesome look. If I'd had those as a kid and was playing with those, I always had a great imagination as a kid. Like, for me, the most fun I ever had with my toys growing up was in Nan and Pop's backyard, in the dirt, playing around, in the rocks or something, because I had this little rock retaining wall.
Yeah.
And so it used to look like, to me, it was, a mountain, or there'd be like little holes in the rocks, so it'd be like a cave or something, and then there'd be this big dugout garden that I used to use as like a big battle arena for like just wars with all my G.I. Joes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I always had such an active imagination. Like when I was into Dragon Ball Z, I had like my Guile G.I. Joe. Like I used to pull all my G.I. Joes to pieces and like customize the parts. So when I got into Dragon Ball, I'd start making all these custom sort of characters that'd be stand-ins in my imagination for Goku or Frieza or Vegeta. Maybe not Goku in my mind, but the Goku archetype, like that martial artist that's protecting everyone from the evil alien or something. And that was when I was having the most fun with my imagination and just having fun playing as a kid. And I found the less fun I had playing as a kid was the more I obtained.
Yes.
Like, the more... So, like, when I liked playing with my X-Men toys, the X-Men toys we grew up with.
Yep.
I remember as I got a bit older, 11, 12, I started getting quite a sizable collection. I remember I had a shopping basket, like from Woolies or something, and that was just filled with 90s Marvel figures.
Yeah.
I used to carry that around with me at the markets or to my nan's place when I'd go over there on the weekends. And I found the more I had of them and the more characters I didn't have to use my imagination to make scenarios out of, the less I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Like, I probably enjoyed myself more when I had one figure of this particular franchise and I was just playing with that and using every other toy I had in my toy box to my imagination for them to be henchmen of someone else or baddies or something, you know?
Yeah.
But, like, I think you can attest to the fact that when we were kids, you know, growing up in the 90s, toys were really toys then.
Yeah,
you know, like, you had to use your imagination.
Oh,
you know, they were fun to play with, but at the end of the day, your imagination and that toy, you know, like, I remember you gave me, in one lot of stuff you gave me one day, was the old classic Batwing.
Yes.
And I remember having one of those when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And, like, that was a cool toy for a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, I remember just, like, running around the yard with that at night and flying it around.
Yeah.
And, yeah, like...
Yeah, well, that was it. I mean, I enjoyed it was the same thing with the Batwing, the Batmobiles and stuff like that.
I love the Batmobiles. They were so fun to play with.
Yeah, and it was good, and it was the toy was the toy. I guess nowadays, sort of, we're in the era of, you know, like video games and stuff was sort of coming in around our era, like properly sort of becoming super mainstream. You know, like you see your Mega Drive, Master System, Super Nintendo, and so on and so forth.
PlayStation was,
PlayStation,
you know, just around the corner.
PlayStation. And sort of nowadays, sort of figures and stuff have become more of a collectible item versus a kid's play toy, because a kid's play toy now is an iPhone 10.
Yeah, and it's not so frowned upon anymore.
Yeah,
like it breaks my heart a little bit because I see, like, just yesterday I was at work and I saw this kid come into work with his mum or his nan or something, and in his hand is an iPad. Yeah. With like one of those little rubber protective iPhone iPad cases that you see just about every iPad now has it. Yeah. If someone has a kid or that kid's carrying around an iPad, it's got one of those things on it. Because the parents are just like, no, that's what keeps them entertained now. Like, I actually can't remember the last time I saw a kid walk into a shop with a toy, with like a toy car or like an action figure. Yeah. And it actually makes me a little bit sad because it's the end of an era, you know, like, I know you brought a little something for the channel today. Of course, yeah. So we'll bring that out. Because that illustrates... So I found this one in my collection at home. Well, not my home, my mum's place. It was still in box. It's an original Spider-Man movie, Peter Parker Spider-Man figure. I thought I'd donate to the collection, mate. Thanks, brother. Thanks. Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's cool, guys. Classic battle damage Peter Parker. And yeah, I do actually remember having all of these at one point. I don't think I ever had... that one. I had the superposable one, but I don't know if I had the actual gargoyle that he's sitting on. But I do remember having the Green Goblin and the Norman Osborn and the Jameson on the back and this particular one. And I remember there was actually another Green Goblin. Correct, the base sort of went with this, and it had the big broken window. Yes. And he had the battle damage and like... just, it was they were good figures, you know, and it looks like Tobey Maguire. You know? It looks very accurate, very spot on. But like, you know, this illustrates my point. Like, this was sort of the beginning for me, and probably for you, of collectible action figures, you know, like sort of true to the look of the movie, comes with like a nice collectible base. And I know I was kind of trying to grow up at a certain age. I think we all did try, mate. You know, I tried, and I think the only toys or figures I had at one point in my life was just a few of these. Yep. You know, just because they had the realistic bases and stuff, and some X-Files figures. Yep. Just more or less real likenesses of those characters. Correct, yeah. Were more or less lifelike representations of those characters. So they... you know, they looked like collectibles. They didn't look so much like toys. But then I got to a point where I was like, well, I like what I like. Yeah. And I don't really care what anyone else thinks about that. Well, you know? Exactly and right. I find the more open you are and the more you are yourself when it comes to stuff like that, you're going to find more true friends always being yourself and being honest about what you love.
Correct.
Like, anyone says to me, like, oh, you know, someone new will come into work, and I'll be like, hey, man, like, how you going? You know, like, so when you're not working, like, or studying or whatever you do, like, what's your thing? Like, you into gaming? Like, anything pop culture you like?
Yeah.
You know, someone will be like, oh, I like anime and stuff, or I like this, you know?
Yeah.
I'll usually, and they ask me, I'll say, oh, I'm a action figure collector. Like, I collect toys, I collect figures, statues, mainly Dragon Ball, like anything Dragon Ball related. And, you know, every now and again I do get a funny look from someone and be like, oh, okay. But it's become so open now that everyone's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a lot more accepted collecting action figures these days.
I mean, I don't think people who turn their nose up at other people is what sort of confuses me is I don't think people understand the money or the resale value in these items. It's like myself, like, just recently I spent, you know, $1,000 on some Assassin's Creed collectibles that had, you know, 64 items in this person's collection still boxed, and I went, well, I know the market value of that. I could probably get up to around $5,000 on it. Granted, there were 6 items I needed for my own collection, so I took them out.
Sold the rest.
Sold the rest to the right avenues, for the right buyers, for the right price, and I made my cash. So realistically, I got everything I wanted for free.
Yeah.
And then made money on top of that.
And see, that's a smart way to do it. Like, I have no problem with buying a lot of something.
Yep.
You know, if I only want 1 or 2 of the things, and I know I can on-sell the other stuff at a fair price and still make my money back.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that item now might not cost me any like physical money, just a bit of time and effort to sell it and get rid of it. That's necessarily not such a bad thing, you know?
Correct.
And, like, I've spoken on the channel before about just being smart about, you know, your money and your investments and your bills. And, like, budgeting is a really, really big factor
of course,
on how you can amass a collection, guys. You know, and just you have no idea how basic, like a basic budget, just get a piece of paper, write out your monthly income, write out your monthly expenses or your weekly expenses, break it all down with all your bills, and you'll see what you have left over. And if you've got $200 left over a week or $200 left over a month, and you can afford to put $50 aside or $100,
buy them figures is what he's saying.
or you know, you can afford to put a little bit of money aside every week. You know, you can slowly amass a collection. Like, you know, something like this, or, you know, the mass of my collection that you guys have seen on the channel isn't built overnight. You know, it's a slow process. And eventually you will get there, you know. Don't let anyone ever give you shit or put you down for the size of your collection, or maybe you can't afford to collect legitimate figures and you collect bootlegs. That's alright too. You collect what you can collect, you know. Like, people collect all sorts of different things. Like, I was watching one of my favourite YouTubers that I've just found, like one of my favourite new YouTubers, Greg Cook Photography. And he does a lot of, like, toy hunts and stuff.
Yep.
And, you know, he bumped into a guy that he was saying is, like, one of his new subscribers. And the guy was saying he collects, you know, dinosaur toys and Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, this dude seemed so keen for, like, dinosaur toys. I was like, good for you, man. Like,
you do you. Yeah.
You do you. And, like, that's the most important thing. And I've said that before. Like, you do you. Don't let anyone else sway you on what you want. Like, always chase your goals and your passions when it comes to collecting, guys, because there's nothing worse than buying a collection or starting a collection of something that you don't feel wholeheartedly invested in, because you're never going to love it and appreciate it the way you will if you're fully invested and you're all in on it, like I am with my Dragon Ball stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look, take it from, you know, you explained the budgeting side of it, and that's 100% accurate. See, I come from a different side of it where, you know, I have to contest with the mortgage, I have to contest with the wife, and the wife's the biggest one. She'll kill me if she knows I spend money. So if I spend money, I'll make sure to make that money back. So I'll buy bulk know what it's worth, know what I want out of it,
Sell the stuff on.
and sell some stuff off. Now, I'll end up buying those things later because I want, I still may need 10 of those toys I just sold. What I've done is I've made an investment, I've made a kitty, now I'm, $1,500 up. I'll spend that $1,500 on $1,500 worth of toys again, in a bulk package, take 5 out of them and sell the rest and make $3,000 and so on. So I'm investing that money back into it, and I'll come into those toys again, the ones that I want, but the ones that I really want at the time, I'll take out.
Yep.
I'll sell the rest. I'll make that. I'll pop it into my little fund, and then I'll keep going.
Yeah.
And that's another way to do it. Now, by all means, if you can't afford to do that, do not do that. Go with the budgeting side. Put X amount aside, and just buy a toy a week if you can, a month. It doesn't matter. You do you. You collect what you want, as Jared said. And bootlegs, man, they're extremely collectible as well.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of Star Wars bootlegs. One of them was going for like $100,000.
That's a little bit different. They're like I think they're like Turkish Star Wars ones or something. Like I know a little bit about those, but not enough that I'm going to go into it without embarrassing myself. But yeah, there's the bootleg market is strange when it comes to some things because some things are hella collectible, especially in Mexico. I think Mexico you can be pretty big for bootlegs.
Yeah.
But just quickly before we finish up, how did you get collecting? And I'm guessing it's probably much like me, like we kind of already touched on this earlier in the video, is you always had an appreciation for action figures and collectibles.
Yeah, from a young age, I suppose from earliest I can remember, the age of 5 or 6, when they would give me my first Batman toy and so on and so forth.
See, like I love toys so much. Like I always appreciated just everything in a toy, and I think that's probably how most of us got collecting. Or I do know some people get out of it, and then later when they get older, they want to reacquire stuff. And lastly, favorite Dragon Ball characters and why?
Alright, so this one's going to come. Everyone knows it'll be Vegeta.
Yep, nice.
100% now.
Vegeta right here too. Vegeta's my favourite.
I'm loving that. The reason I'd say that is due to me, he had, although Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Super was predominantly Goku's journey from a child to a man, from power to power, struggle to struggle, I liked Vegeta the most because his struggle was being villainous to becoming good, and I quite admired that, you know what I mean? Like he was, and we touched on this earlier, he was very villain, turned anti-hero, turned good, and by the end of Super you could just tell he was like, I'm in it.
Like I always loved Vegeta, but he's really been such a standout in Super, the character development and all that.
My second character would be Cooler, because Cooler is cooler than Frieza.
Of course.
No, I quite admired it, like the idea of him finding a form beyond.
And I love that movie. I love that movie.
Cooler's Revenge was fantastic. I was not...
And the music was always... like, the music in the original Funimation dub, for anyone that knows what we're talking about, Lord Slug, Cooler's Revenge, both had some great music by, like... I think there was some Disturbed, Drowning Pool. American
Finger
Pool.
11.
Finger 11, just some great songs that they put in as the soundtrack. And even though I know, it's not the original, the way it was originally done, every time I watch those movies now on Blu-ray, my heart aches a little bit that there's not a sound option for those original soundtracks, just because, they really hit the mark when we were kids, like when we were younger, because we were like right on that adolescence age, becoming, we're like 12, 13, 14, getting ready to go into high school when that sort of, those movies were coming out.
And the irony was, I think it was that movie then sort of, Cooler's Revenge specifically, this is probably why I loved it so much, was sort of my journey into like rock and roll, metal and sort of punk rock music, because due to that, I just loved the soundtrack, I loved everything about it, and it was so fresh, it was so brand new when it sort of came out, and I wish they would sort of bring Cooler canon, and not so much non-canon. Well,
see, we could see that now that we've got, now we've got Broly, it's been done, and like there's some crazy stuff going on with like the promotional anime for Super Dragon Ball Heroes,
Yep.
like the card game,
Yeah.
the arcade card game. So you don't know what's just around the corner. You
That's
know,
it.
just about anything could be canonized.
Correct.
But if it's not, we've still got stuff like Dragon Ball Heroes where, you know, we've got Golden Cooler
Yes.
in his final form,
Yes.
and that's really cool.
Yeah.
So now that we've managed to touch base for this video, we're actually going to hit up Supernova tomorrow. So it's currently Friday here in Australia, so tomorrow's Saturday, and we're going to go check out Supernova. Neil's going to come along with his wife, with Jess and I, so the four of us are going to go check it out. I will be filming for you guys to give you guys, anyone that's interested in seeing what Supernova is about, for those of you that live outside of Australia and want to see what our conventions look like. They're a lot smaller than the American ones, but they're still good nonetheless. I hope to pick up a few goodies, a few cool statues, maybe some new Bum Presto stuff for the channel and for review. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really good day.
Yeah, I'm looking excited to get an autograph from Matt Ryan. People might not know who Matt Ryan is. He's an actor. He did, I don't think I can remember him in, this is because the wife watched the TV show, he did Constantine, the TV show, which only went for about one season.
Yeah.
But he's also the likeness, right, and the voice of Edward Kenway from Assassin's Creed. Black Flag, so I'm going to go get his autograph on a limited edition linograph.
That's awesome.
And frame that bad boy, so I'm happy he's there.
Yeah, Jess is going to get an autograph as well. And what does your wife want to do?
She wants to get an autograph from a vampire or something, I don't know.
See, I was hoping you were going to say what you said in the message when you told me about that. You said to me, Georgina wants to go and blow kisses at some vampire guy
She's
or
gonna
something.
kill me. Yeah. She's gonna watch it. She's gonna kill me. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name.
Well, to be fair, I'm pretty sure she's always got at least one or two things she wants to kill you for.
Always true. Yeah,
in any
there's
given
always a
day.
couple. But yeah, I believe the gentleman's name she wants to get an or a photo from or an autograph is Ian Somerhalder, and he was out of Vampire Diaries.
Okay, yeah.
So he'll be there. So yeah.
Yes, yeah, I've never watched any of those vampire
Yeah,
shows.
I've been subjected to it. Don't get married.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. So it'll be good. I'm looking forward to Supernova to see what they've brought this year, and
It'll be really good because John's coming along as well.
perfect. Yeah.
And he's got a mate coming, so there'll actually be, you know, a few of us there. So should be a really good day.
So is the missus or yourself dressing up?
I'm not dressing up, but Jess is going to be dressing up. So while I'm filming, if you guys see a Harley Quinn very close to our proximity or in front of us or close by, that's Jess in her Harley Quinn costume.
And if you see a pink Power Ranger, that'll be me.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course.
No other way.
Is your wife dressing up?
No. She's not a fan of the old cosplay, mate.
Well, I'm not going to be dressing up, mainly just because I want to film, and it's on my weekend on. I've taken the Saturday off.
Yep.
I'm not going to take the Sunday off because I'm pretty broke as it is, so I'll just take the Saturday off, and then just go get some footage, maybe pick up a few things, and then...
It'll be a fantastic day, and it'll be good to be down there with you, mate. You can show me the ropes and what's going on.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be great. You're gonna love it, like, because you haven't been for many years.
Correct, yeah.
And it has gotten bigger, like, in the years since you've been.
I think I went to the first launch, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't the biggest thing on earth. It was
Like,
still a good
I went to
experience.
the very first one. I think it was 2002.
I think that's about right, yeah.
Yeah, it was the year before. I think it was the year before I went into high school, or
Yep.
the year I started high school, or the year before high school.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing that ad on TV.
Yeah.
And being like, what? There's like a comic convention coming to Australia? That's crazy. And then I saw the voice actor for Vegeta, Christopher Sabat, was going to be there. And like I still remember meeting him and being so like blown away by him.
Yes.
And then years later when he came in, I think it was 2015, and you know, he came with Sean Shamel.
Yes.
That was so cool because I gave him the photo that someone took of me with him, like one of those little disposable camera Polaroid sticker photos. Like I'd kept that in a drawer, Like it sat in this drawer for like 10 years or more, and I gave that to him, and he looked at it, and he actually remembered me. He's like, I remember this because I had my hand up in every time he was like taking questions. I was like, hand up, like,
Yeah.
And I think it got to the point where he's just like, I can't answer any more of your questions,
Yeah.
mate. Like,
Yeah.
like you got to stop putting your hand up. But I gave him that, and I remember him being really touched by that when I saw him in like 2015 or 2016, whenever he came.
Yep.
And that was really good. Like the fact that that touched him and stuff. And I still remember the shirt I was wearing was like the Dragon Ball Z shirt I got in Japan in 2015, and it's got the farmer on it from the first episode, and it's just him as if you're looking through a scouter, so it's like he's sort of yellow with the outline, and it's got like all the little symbols for the scouter,
and power levels, and
then on the back it says power level only 5, what a garbage. And I remember both of them saw that and were like, where did you get that shirt? Like, that is amazing. And that, like, every time I've met one of the voice actors from Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball or something, I've always been so impressed.
Of course.
Like, I met the original voice actor for Kid Gohan and Kid Goku for Dragon Ball, and she was such a delight. Like, I did not expect her to be, like, as lovely as she was, and she's a lovely lady.
Yeah, I find that, look, I've met a few voice actors in my time, and I find that the voice actors are just so approachable. You know what I mean? Like, they are so approachable. Anyone that voice acts, nicest person ever. That's not saying that general actors aren't nice, but...
And you do get voice actors that are, let's say, can be pricks, I'm sure. Yeah. Supernova should be really fun.
Supernova would be good if you can, guys. Get down there. Support pop culture.
Yeah, so that's going to be at the Gold Coast Exhibition and Entertainment Centre in Broadbeach.
Correct, yeah.
Here on the Gold Coast. So yeah, if you're a local and you follow the channel and you see myself or Neil, make sure to stop us and say hello. I'd definitely love to hear from any of you guys. That'd be fantastic.
Always keen for a chat.
Yeah, always keen for a chat. Anything Dragon Ball related.
That's
so thank you very much for joining me on the channel, man.
Mate.
And you're welcome back anytime. I'd
love to come back.
And I'll have to come around one day. We might have to go over to Neil's with the camera, and we will go check out his collection and see what his Assassin's Creed collection looks like. Okay, guys. Well, thank you for joining me as always. Neil, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure, thank you.
It's been great. And I will catch you in the next video, guys. Bye for now. Don't forget, we also have a Facebook page now, so just jump onto Facebook, and it's at Galick Gun Toys to connect with us there too. Bye for now.